This is WPSL Port St. Lucie.
The views expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of WPSL, but you're encouraged to like and share them on social media. Because right now, Howard Insurance in Port St. Lucie presents The African American Scene, a program that you can participate on. Stand by for instructions. Here's your host, Rudy Howard.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Always glad to be with you here on a Wednesday night. Boy, I will really be happy to be with you next Wednesday night because the elections will be over and I don't have to watch any more of them funky ads with everybody lying on each other and misstating the truth. And Lord, it'd be, my wife said last week, she said, oh my God, I just cannot wait for this to be over. Well, when I speak to you next Wednesday, we will know the outcome. We will know the outcome.
Last week, I thought you took the night off last week to go to the debate. I thought you were going to be there in person. In fact, I saw a very well-dressed gentleman in the background, and now in the background you can't see everybody clearly. But I thought, is that Rudy right there? Wait a minute. Oh, it cut away. Oh.
I was in Philadelphia.
Ooh.
Yeah, I was on my home turf.
All right.
Visiting some friends. She has an annual friends get together, and all the old people from high school, we all get together, and it's always a lot of fun.
I know you didn't miss the Gillum DeSantis debate.
No.
I know you could have done that.
Yeah, that's. I got to tell you, I when I first found out about Gillum, and one of my Facebook buddies, Bill Ramos, he pointed out Gillum to me, and I said, well, I don't know, because I'd had an opportunity to meet Carol, the ex-governor's daughter. There was a small group of us, quote-unquote, community leaders that were called together, and I had a chance to meet her one-on-one. And I was kind of impressed with her. But once I heard Andrew Gillum several times, he began to give me the same kind of feeling that President Obama gave me. You know, you and I talked about it, and I developed my feeling pretty much the same way. I was lukewarm on President Obama in the beginning, but what gave me confidence was as I heard President Obama speak, he engendered the confidence in me that no matter what would come up, his calm demeanor would be able to handle it.
And there's no denying that he was able to be like that.
He was. Nothing is more indicative of that than the night at the dinner, the correspondence dinner. Mm-hmm. He was planning the attack for Osama bin Laden. You would have had no clue whatsoever that was going on. Mm-hmm. Just calm, cool, and collected. Well, I think, and I think I made this analogy before with President Obama, when you're going to battle with somebody who is your leader, whether it be basketball or football, the guy that's leading you has to be calm in the midst of the storm, whether you're down by 10 points or you're down by 2 touchdowns and you're trying to get back in the game.
Or if it's wrestling or boxing, you're getting your butt whooped.
Yep. And he gives me that feeling. And I want to feel that way about my leader. I want to feel that my leader is capable of handling any situation in a calm manner. Not that they're not going to make mistakes, because they all make mistakes, but they're going to think it through and handle it in a calm manner. And if there's one thing, I took a speech my last year of college, and one of the things that I noticed with Obama, if you see when he's speaking, a lot of times he pauses. And that's one of the things that they tell you in speech because
Make them think.
yeah, well,
Give you a minute to-
people go and duh because they're trying to fill the space so that they can think.
Sometimes it's just as easy to think in between words.
Yes. So he's been trained to do. I noticed that like early on, he was trained to pause and think before he opened his mouth.
That makes sense because we've got one mouth and two ears. We should listen twice as much as we talk.
That's right. Now, the person we have in the White House now has no clue about thinking before he speaks. None. Zero. So that's another story. But anyway, let's since this is the last Wednesday before the election, I'm going to give you a chance to get at me. Now, I am going to take my last unofficial Howard poll tonight.
Ooh, Howard Paul, let me get a piece of paper for scorekeeping.
Yeah. If you're for, I'm taking a poll on who's voting for Gillum and who's voting for DeSantis. And now, it's kind of a stacked deck at this station, but hey, let's give it a shot.
Well, yeah, mostly conservative talk shows are on here, and it does gather a mostly conservative audience. However, Rudy's show, Rudy doesn't preach to no choir around here.
That's right. So if you want to call up and participate in the Howard Insurance unofficial poll, if you're voting for Gillum, call up and let me know. And if you voting for DeSantis, call up and let me know.
I'll be taking score over the phone for you, so just tell me either Gillum or DeSantis, and I'll mark down, and towards the end of the show, we'll reveal the result.
Yes, and I would love to, if you feel so inclined, to know why you're voting for one or the other. The other thing that I'd like to do tonight is I'd like to know why you are a conservative, and then I'd like to know why you are a liberal. Please share that with me, if you would. I'd like to know why you are a conservative, or tell me why you are a liberal.
Funny you should ask that because Ron is with us, and he's made his vote here, whether it's Gillum or DeSantis, and he would like to make some comments.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'd say Mr. Gillum is very, very smooth,
Uh-huh.
but I don't want socialism in our country, in our state, and I don't want an income tax.
He can't make an income tax.
Oh, is that right? You can't go with a Florida income tax.
He can't make a Florida income tax. It's in the Florida Constitution. He doesn't see. That's one of the things that I think is wrong with our politics. He can't do that. The Constitution would not allow him to make an income tax.
All right. What has to happen, sir?
Well, that would have to be a 2/3 majority of the House of Representatives in order for there to be an income tax created, which I can't foresee would ever happen. And I can tell you this, sir, I don't know any progressive or liberal that would want an income tax.
In Florida.
Well, we're getting more and more people from the Northeast down here, people who have had their states like New York raising taxes and doing things like that. We got more of those people down here, and they bring their progressive ideas down here.
Well, yes, they may bring their progressive
And-
ideas. Yes, but Ron, part
I
of the
believe
go ahead.
Mr. Gillum is a pure socialist, sir.
You do?
Oh, yes, definitely. I don't think there's a question about it. But, hey, that's my opinion, and this is an opinion show.
Yes.
Therefore, I will just listen to the rest of the people.
Yes, sir. And thank you for your opinion, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome, and I stand corrected if the income tax can't go through that easily.
No, it cannot. Okay. But thank you again, sir.
Thank you. And goodbye.
Okay. And we got another call, Cliff?
Well, there were several other calls. One of them didn't make it through by the time I'd answered it, but one fella voted for Rudy. and I said, Gillum or DeSantis? He said, I want to put my vote down for Rudy. And I wanted to like pull him into the show for a minute and say, hey, wait a minute now. Can we do that?
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate your vote. But I have no desire whatsoever to get in that snake pit.
Speaking of snake pits, I've been sitting around the radio station for the past few weeks, and I'm listening to all these political ads.
Yeah.
And you hear all this, attack this and attack that, attack. And all of a sudden, I heard something that resonated, and I stopped dead in my tracks. What was that? Who was that? You know what the man said? The man on there said that my grandmother told me to go get that education and someday bring it home. And I, who was that just said that? Who was that? And it was
Gillum, yes.
And it's like, wow, okay. And then, now, Rudy Howard describes Barack Obama as a really cool, calm, and collective guy. Well, I watched the debate last week, and Gillum seemed very cool, calm, and collective and knew what he was talking about. And DeSantis wasn't all that impressive.
I agree, yes. And I think that's why Gillum has been winning over people. He has this very calm demeanor that gives people comfort in his decision-making process. So, yeah. I have to tell you, there's I'm not going to say his name because I don't have the permission to, but there's a pretty well-known pastor who posted something on Facebook today who I happen to think the world of. And on his post, he said, I don't know why all these evangelicals are concerned about immigration and the white nationals. He said, because if you really believe in God and you really believe in heaven, what do you think heaven looks like? That hit me like a lightning bolt. I was like, wow.
Gotta find the delegation that runs that place, and get a hold of an advisor and then maybe an ambassador.
Now you think about what he said there. That is really loaded. He said, if you believe in God and you believe in heaven, what do you think heaven looks like? Ooh. Well, I would have to think that if we truly believe, there's a rainbow of people in heaven. They're not all white. They're not all black. They're not all brown.
That's going to be very disappointing to some people,
Yes, it's going to be very, yes, exactly.
I always used to hear people in churches, black churches and white churches.
Yeah.
And then I asked a question one time to some very pompous, I'll say white folks. And I said, what are you going to do if you wake up in heaven in the black section? Because there was a lot of segregation back then, and that there was certain. I said, "What are you going to do if you woke up, and you were with these people that you don't like here in this life, where I think we're all going to be the same color wherever we end up, because we're all made of the same stuff. It's all the same stuff.
We are.
Yeah.
It inside below the melanin.
Yeah.
Below the skin color, we are.
Yeah. You peel all the skin off, we look identical.
Yes, we do.
And you know what? I've had a lot of dogs in my day, a lot of cats and animals and pets. Nowhere in the animal kingdom do I see any animal concerned about others being different from themselves, like people are. And if the dogs are smart enough to figure that out, what does that say? I'm not going to say what that says because it's not good.
Yeah. I've been having another. I should tell you this. One of the guys that I've been having debates with for maybe, I guess, a couple years now he got so pissed off at me, he told me that he was going to try to get me kicked off the air.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I said, well,
Yeah.
have at it.
He's going to get you fired from this place. Huh?
Yeah. He said, I'm going to have you kicked off the air. I said,
Is
well.
that the guy that a couple years ago called me and asked me, he goes, who hired Rudy Howard? who was in charge that gave him a job there to say what he says when he comes? And I had to, I'm sorry, sir, but Mr. Howard's company sponsors, the company that Mr. Howard owns sponsors his show. And if you had a company and you had an opinion in a company, you could have a show too.
Yeah. But anyway, he got so upset with me. Part of what.
Well, you're winning him over, and it makes him mad.
Well, listen, I'm going to say this, and for my conservative friends, I understand that if you are deeply vested in a particular line of thinking and a particular ideology, when somebody tears that and rips at it, that's very painful to you. And it can be very disconcerting that you have invested in this particular line of thinking, and all of a sudden now it's starting to fray. Well, you know what? And you've heard me say this, and I've said it 1,000 times. One of the things that I learned when I went to school, my professor said, my philosophy professor said, if you have a particular line of thought and you can't defend it, you have to rethink it. I believe that from the bottom of my heart.
In the shadow of the facts, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So if I ever say something to you and I am unable to defend my position and my thought for how I feel that way, I will rethink it. I will change my mind if you convince me that I have faulty reasoning or I have a faulty conclusion that I've come to based on the information that I have. I absolutely will change. I will not stand in the middle of the storm holding on to a bad idea just so I won't be wrong. That's not who I am. If you can convince me that I'm wrong, I will change. And
that's the problem out there. People don't want to change. They don't like change.
No, once they're invested,
terrifies.
and I have learned that now over the last, I guess I've been on here 8 years now, and I guess over the last 3 to 4 years, I have learned that once someone gets totally invested in a conservative thought, they can't change. They can't give ground. And no matter how much information you give them, they hold on to it. And the one thing, I'll give you the perfect example of one line of reasoning. The trickle-down economic theory. It has been written by many, many economists. That doesn't work. Does not work. And what I told one of my conservative friends is, it is logically, it makes sense. And if we had never tried it, and honest to God, this is exactly what I said. If we had never tried it, I'd be inclined to try it because the thought process of putting money at the top and it helping to raise people down the bottom seems to make sense.
Sounds good.
It does.
But
the people at the top are greedy. And they don't spend the money. You know, today I tried to get this so I could play it for you. A rich person, you know, there's a group called Patriotic Millionaires, and I'm guessing he must be one of them.
Obviously, yeah.
And they are guys and gals who make a lot of money and feel that the tax situation is unfair and that they're unfairly benefiting by the tax situation. And the guy today, I had Cliff to listen to it before we came on air.
We just couldn't figure out a way to get it on the air. We didn't have a plug long enough to get it.
Yeah, we couldn't get it on. I wanted to play it for you. He said he just bought a new plane, and he found out after buying the plane that there was a provision in the tax law that was just passed that allowed him to buy the plane and have a complete write-off on all the taxes. And he said, that is absolutely not. This is the man who just bought the plane. He said, it is totally ridiculous that I can buy a plane and write the taxes off. It's wrong. He said, I shouldn't be able to do that. And he said that we have been making money, and the people in the middle class have not. And he said, that's just unfair. And not only did he say it, then the week before that, Disney's daughter posted something on Facebook with a very similar story of saying that she was making all of this money and all her friends were making all this money, and they weren't making people richer. They were out there buying yachts. And we got Jay on line one. Yes, Jay, how are you, sir?
Oh, good afternoon, Rudy, you and your co-host. I just was thinking as you were talking, and I was thinking about this election coming up this, Tuesday, and well, anyway, we've got early voting, and I was encouraging some of the ministers in Fort Pierce to souls to the polls. In other words, make sure you get those folks to the polls by bus, by vans. Use the church buses or vans to take them to the polls after service.
Yeah,
did that a couple of weeks ago, and I was talking to one of there's a new minister there in Fort Pierce. But anyway, to make a long story short, that was just my suggestion to them, and they were glad that I kind of reminded them to do that. And we have to reach out and do a lot of things. You know why? Because voter suppression is real in this country.
Oof.
And it's not only here in Florida after what happened in 2000 with Jeb Bush, Katherine Harris. That was the blueprint. But it's all over the place. Kansas, Georgia with Ms. Abrams, all of these people running for office, and they have to put up with the nonsense with these people denying people the right to vote who've been voting all their lives. And all of a sudden they came up with a plan how to take them off by using saying that, well, they didn't put a dot there, or, that they, where's the hyphen, or, where's the middle name, or, all of this stuff. And then you go down, I think it's somewhere in Arizona, someplace where they're actually disrespecting the Native Americans.
Oh, that was Dakota.
On the reservation.
Yes.
On the reservation, believe it or not.
Yes.
These are people been here before these Europeans even thought about this continent. And they're disrespecting them by saying, well, you can't use a box number. You have to have an address when they've been using that box number because that's the arrangement they have there on the reservation where they live. And it's been that way probably since they've been, since the Europeans been here on this continent. And all of a sudden they come up with these new rules to stop them from voting because they figured this is the only way they can win because they have to suppress the vote. That's why I think that everybody needs to come out and think about that and think that, we have to overwhelm the election. We have to make sure it's a record amount of people coming out just to overdo the voter suppression. And it's kind of sad that that's what we have to do in a democracy. And I don't think that's why I went over to Vietnam for, you know what I mean?
Yes.
But I think that's part of the deal here. It's kind of sad watching it and watching people doing it, even veterans. Some veterans that kind of like gravitate to Trump, and it's kind of sad watching them, even though they put their lives on the line, and for everybody to have this right. But yet, it seems like they forgot about that.
Yeah. Well, my friend, thank you so much for calling and being a faithful listener.
Yeah, I just want to make this one little statement. When I was playing basketball in high school, I was very fortunate. I played at a high school in Brooklyn that was one of the best in the country. Lenny Wilkins came out of there, Connie Hawkins. They all great. They all came out of Boys High in Brooklyn. And the coach always used to tell us, he said, when we go into whatever game we play, we're not going to win by 2 points. We're going to win by 20. every game we have to have that kind of attitude that we're just going to run them out of the gym. And I thought about that when I was thinking about this election. I said that's the only way we're going to have to win, because there's always that opposition. And you just got to do it that way and have no mercy and not think about anything but the people that are being depressed and the people that are being undermined and not getting their right, the rights that everybody else should have. Everybody else got in this country. So don't play around with the vote. Make sure you get out there and vote. And I think you're probably telling some folks the same thing, Rudy.
Yes, sir.
Take care now.
All right, thanks, Jay. And we got Steve on line 1. Yes, sir.
Hey, Rudy. How you doing?
Okay.
Getting better?
Oh, yeah.
Almost 100%?
Yep.
Yeah. I've been out of town for a while, and I got a break. And I was sitting here thinking, that's when I'm driving, and I heard you. I said, well, maybe I can go in and talk on that a little bit.
Yep.
Let me try to organize my thoughts here. Why I'm a conservative is a lot of reasons for why I come up to that point, because of the Democratic Party's ideas.
Okay.
And I'm thinking to myself here, there's 3 ideas on my top of my head right now. The first one is that it's been the mantra for a long time that by the Democratic Party that poverty and the lack of education is a foster for crime.
Is a what? Is a what?
Is a foster. It breeds crime. It is a stimulus for crime. Okay. Poverty and the lack of education. And then the second one was that even you mentioned this one the last time we talked, that the Democratic Party considers itself to be the most diverse, party. That it has a bunch of different groups of people in the party. And the third thing I was thinking is that by standards, and you mentioned liberals and progressives. Liberals and progressives, they always assume that they have the higher moral ground. And so those are 3 things that I think if you look at them from a different perspective, maybe a conservative perspective, but just to think about them. And in the first one,
let's deal with the second one.
Well, let's go to the first one first.
No. I told you, this is my show.
Okay,
we're going to do it the way I want to do it.
That's right.
Okay, so we're going to so we're going to the second one. The second one, you said part of the problem is that the Democrats include everybody. So why is that
they're a collective group.
Okay, so why is that a problem?
Okay, if you think about that from the statement, if I use collective diversity as my form for forming the majority, that has a lot to do with the way, if you think about it, it means, first of all, those individual groups are smaller than a larger group. There's some other group bigger than them, so they're united in another group. So their group is smaller than some other larger group. And if you think about it, it has to be. And see, I'm thinking here on the... And if you think about it, that means their relative ideas, trying to form this, their relative ideas are less than also a larger group.
Yeah?
Individually, yes. There has to be an individually group that they are trying to, because they're joining into the Democratic Party, they're joining on so that they will have more value as a collective group, because their ideas are not going to convince a larger group. Does that make sense?
No, does not.
Well,
let me tell you why it doesn't make sense.
Okay.
America is composed of small individual groups. White people are not just white people per se. White people are Italians, Irish, Polish, Germans. They're all part of the group called white people. So that statement, no, listen for a second and learn something. I'm trying to educate you.
Yes, I know you are.
Okay, so learn something. So if that group of people come together to form what is called white Americans, that group is a collective body of subgroups. So now how do you criticize the Democratic Party for having come together in a group and not have a criticism for the quote unquote white people group?
But you just made an analogy that's not applicable, because there is no specific white group that is formed together that because they're of white. But I can say that there are those people that might be transgender or homosexuals or bisexuals. Those are individual groups that have gone collectively because they know, as an overall view of society, they're a smaller group.
You said, let me repeat what you said, that part of the thing with the Democrats, the small groups are designed to disadvantage the major group.
No, they combine
to overcome the major group. Now tell me, what is the major group?
Well, the major group, and the major group is not a group. It's just by population.
Okay, and what is it? What is it?
There are more white people, but you can't use that as a terminology, because if that was true, wait a minute, you can't use, because Democrats have white people in them. See, well, all I'm saying is, by definition, if I'm a collective diversity, you're identifying diversity as to be collective. Very simple. So therefore, there is some form of feeling of victimization of a larger group to have a collective majority, even if the philosophies or states of mind or laws, whatever they want to do, is a smaller group. But that's one of the reasons. You want to know why I was a conservative, and this is one of the reasons, because it in itself, collective diversity for the purpose of majority vote is over to go over somebody else or other group. So in itself, there has to be some type of victimization.
That's faulty reasoning.
No.
It's faulty reasoning.
Why would they combine?
I got your letter.
Okay.
I got your letter and I read it.
Okay.
That's faulty reasoning, and I just explained to you why it's faulty.
No, you tried to. You made up a group.
No, I explained to you why it's faulty reasoning, because the white population is made up of subgroups.
It is there may be subgroups, but they're not together because of their color.
But are they? They're not.
Oh, they're not. Well, then
they're not.
Then again, see, your logic falls apart if there are white people that are going to be not part of that group.
No, it does not.
Okay. Well, let me just go on and say, okay, that's my point. I think it does. And the next point was, let's see, the higher moral standard. And I think this is very important. The progressives and the liberals think they stand the higher moral ground.
That's probably true.
Okay, if you analyze that from the standpoint out looking at it, first of all, to have standards, there's got to be a standard to gauge it by. The liberals and progressives, they don't refer or don't rely on God as far as a standard. They don't rely on the Bible as a standard.
How do you know?
Because over the years I've talked to them, their standard, they may use parts of it, but it's not there are no definites in theirs to say, okay, I'll give you an example.
You know what? We're not gonna do that, because you know what? You're talking about something that you don't know about, because when you make a statement as broad as that Democrats and conservatives do not have a biblical standard for how they approach things, that's just a very naive and prejudicial point of thinking, because I know some wonderful people that are very dedicated to
You're
a
going
biblical
down a road I'm not going down.
Okay, well, I'm just telling you what okay,
what you're perceiving is not what I'm saying. I am saying is, okay, the direction would be then, okay, you tell me where there is a standard, a document that defines what a progressive and a liberal believe, and the definites how they want to perceive that, how they want it to be in place. There's a lot of opinions. There's a lot of imagination. There's a lot of situation ethics. But I can't. Maybe you can tell me, where is this document that the progressives and the liberals have that they can present to a conservative and say, this is what we believe. This is how society should be.
I refuse to play that game with you. There is plenty of documents out there that can tell you how progressives believe, and there's also documents out there about how conservatives believe. And about a year ago, I did a show where I had a document that put conservative ideals and liberal ideals side by side, and I shared what the topic was, what a conservative believed, and what a liberal believed. So there's plenty of documents out there, but I'm not playing that game. I'd like to thank you so much for your letter, and I'd like to thank you for your call. And we are going to take a break. And if you want to call in and get on that poll, Gillum or DeSantis, that phone number is 340-1590. That's 340-1590.
I can't believe somebody actually said, forget about Gillum and DeSantis, I want Rudy. You think maybe someday down the road, maybe?
No way.
No, you're too honest. You couldn't go into politics.
No way. Jesus, no.
We'll be right back with the African American scene.
Serving the entire Treasure Coast, Howard Insurance and Associates in Port St. Lucie offers a wide variety of insurance products, along with the very best customer service. Whether you're shopping for the best homeowners coverage at the most affordable value, contact Rudy Howard's team at Howard Insurance and Associates. If you need coverage for your vehicle, call Howard Insurance and Associates, 343-9878. That's 343-9878. Maybe you're planning to add a boat, motorcycle, or RV. Call Howard Insurance and Associates for your free quote at 343-9878 and get the coverage you need at a cost that will fit your budget. For home or business, auto, or recreational vehicle, choose Howard Insurance and Associates, 600 Southwest Darwin Boulevard, Suite 206, Port St. Lucie. And for your free rate quote, call them at 343-9878, 343-9878. WPSL Treasure Coast Weather with meteorologist Steve Villanueva is brought to you this hour by Seacoast Air Conditioning.
Good evening, everyone, and happy Halloween to you. Steve Villanueva here. As we head into the overnight hours, we'll see temperatures in the lower 70s, some of you in the mid to the upper 60s under partly cloudy skies. Tomorrow, 86 degrees. About a 20% chance of a shower here or there. On Friday, it's warm, upper 80s. It's muggy, a 40% chance of a shower or a thunderstorm. Saturday, a morning shower. Otherwise, we're partly to mostly cloudy. Temperatures in the lower 80s. I'm WPTV Storm Team 5 meteorologist Steve Villanueva for WPSL 1590, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
Weather this hour is brought to you by Seacoast Air Conditioning, your hometown air conditioning company since 1982. For repairs or a whole new system, call 772-466-2400.
Comfort crisis? Don't roast. Call Seacoast.
Well, we're not at the end of the show yet, but folks have been chiming in on the Rudy Howard Insurance poll, the governor race poll. You want to vote for Gillum or for DeSantis? And we invited the listeners to call in. And, we'll say it's almost 50-50 except for one thing. The fellow that voted for Rudy, I'm going to give Rudy's vote to Gillum. And that just breaks a little tie right now, so we still got room for more at 340-1590.
There you go. I have to share with you. You know, you've heard me talking over the past few months about being tribal and tribalism, and me and my brother-in-law Larry have talked about that quite a bit. I am reading a book now, and I'm about a fourth of the way through it. It's called Tribalism, and it was written by Amy Chua, and she's a Harvard professor. And in the book, she tries to give us an understanding of where our tribalism comes from and how it has at times been very disadvantageous to us in understanding our foreign policy because we failed to understand the tribal nature of some of the people that we were dealing with. And most notably, she talks about Vietnam. And what she said, and I just got through that section that she did on Vietnam, was absolutely eye-opening. She said that part of what we didn't understand when we went in there is that the Vietnamese hated China. And we thought that it was about communism. And really what it's about, they had been fighting the Chinese for many, many years, and because we failed to understand the tribal nature of how they felt about China, that they were willing to fight us to the death. And that when we came in the South Vietnam and all of the businesses and transactions that were created, much of them were created by Chinese people. And here's the one that blew my mind. You remember in the 70s when we had the boat people? Cliff's remembering that. You remember that when we did all those boats of people?
Well, actually, I remember the bodies washing up on the beach a lot, too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that.
Most of them were Chinese that the Vietnamese were kicking out of out of there.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that. So she gave me a real education. So I'm reading this, and I'm like, really? So what was our failure to understand is they had such hostile feelings toward the Chinese and how the Chinese had it exploited their economy, and we didn't understand that. They were willing to die with their last breath rather than to let China run over their economy. Okay. So that's very interesting. So now I haven't got. So now she's taken me now into the current line of thinking when it comes to tribalism, and I have to tell you it from my perspective. And here is where I think you really have tribalism, and we saw it up close and personal in the Kavanaugh hearing. When you decide, I want you to hear this again now. I'm going to say this again. When you decide a person is guilty before there is one shred of evidence, you are a tribalist. You are not a patriot. Because if you believe in democratic principles and our Constitution, you at least want to find out what the information is before you make a decision. Far too often, there's a decision made before there's facts. Now, I'm going to say this, and there's some of you that are listening to me tonight that did this recently. When they found those bombs, I got so damn mad I was spitting fire. The first thing they said, Rush Limbaugh and Alex Jones, it was a Democratic plot to overturn the election. They immediately charged the Democrats for being the ones that sent out the bombs. And some of you bought into that immediately. How could you buy into that without one shred of evidence? Not one shred. But you bought into it because you're a member of the tribe, and protecting the tribe is more important than protecting America.
Unfortunately, that's what we have. Yep.
Do you understand what I'm saying? And I was so angry. And then and then they said, well, the liberals probably put all the stickers on the truck. Come on, please.
No. We're all allowed to put whatever we want on our trucks.
Please, come on.
It's part of the freedom of speech thing.
Yeah. And you know what? It didn't just start last week when they were telling you that President Obama was not a United States citizen, and you were buying into that garbage without not one piece of information that made any sense that says he wasn't, and he was the president of the Harvard Law Review. That was tribal behavior. You bought into something that had no merit at all because your tribe told you to believe it. God help me, I never get that far gone on being a progressive that I believe everything they tell me without willingness to accept any information in order to come up with a decision. You will never, ever, ever be able to say that about Rudy Howard, because Rudy Howard don't operate like that. Now, if you do, shame on you. Okay, I got that off my chest. I'm prone to get up on my soapbox every now and then, and that was a soapbox moment because I get really stoked. Like I said, I got so angry, and somebody predicted it that morning that they said before the day's out, the conservatives are going to say the Democrats put that bombs together to try to change the election. And then you wonder why. Then you wonder why we have such a mess, why we have all the sniping, why we can't sit in a room and get anything done. You can't because nobody trusts anybody.
Problem is there's a lot of people out there that are right on the edge of breaking.
Yes.
Because they're so emotionally built up and so angry that just the right combination of words out of someone who's looked up to, out of someone's mouth, can trigger something very bad inside of a person to make them snap and do whatever happens to be done. There's just different levels of this going on all around us, and we don't even see it.
Well, we should, Cliff, because we've had ample evidence.
Yeah.
Listen, think about that guy when they said Hillary Clinton was running a pedophile ring at a pizza shop.
Pizzagate, yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah, because then somebody around here in this area said, well, Obama came and got a hug by the pizza guy. And they tried to tie that into it, you know, how folks do when they talk. And but there's nothing to it solid that anybody's concerned about. There's no investigation going on about it because why? Just words running amok doesn't make it true.
And the guy shows up at the pizza shop in D.C. with a gun and a rifle.
Oh. Looking for a bunch of pedophiles that aren't there.
Yeah, exactly.
He ought to check his neighborhood. If he wants to go after pedophiles, he can do a neighborhood search.
Yeah. Oh my God. So hey, listen. But you know what? Like I said, I like to thank the guy for saying Rudy Howard for governor.
Oh yeah.
But you know what? First of all, God puts us all where we're supposed to be. Because I'd be in jail if I was in one of those positions because I wouldn't be able to sit at the table with some of those guys saying nasty stuff at me and being non-responsive like you're supposed to be a gentleman. I just couldn't do it. So that's the Lord knows not to ever put me in that spot.
He gave you a great big microphone, though, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He gave me a big microphone to talk, but he knew better than to put me in that spot. Hey, look, I'm honest. I know. I listen. Some of that stuff that, you know, Obama put up with, whew, no way I could have handled that without having punched somebody's lights out or them punching my lights out. One of us would have been punched out. So, but anyway, and that's not being provocative of violence. I'm just saying that my personal emotions is not that strong to handle that the way he did. So, but hey, I would just like to tell you that, you know, what a couple years it's been. And on Tuesday, what we're going to find out is we're not only going to find out the election results, we're going to get a pretty good idea of where people want to take our country, what kind of country we want to live in. And I pray that we come up with the right answer, because people need health care in this country. People need opportunity in this country. And we got to stop giving everything to rich people who have told us out of their own mouths that they don't need it and they don't deserve it. But still we keep foisting it on them, and then we turn around and say we have to cut from the people that need it. Well, listen, I want to give you my Christian love, and I wish you go vote. Whether you be a Republican or a Democrat, I don't care. I want you to vote. I want to say God bless, be safe, and I will see you next Wednesday right here on the African American Scene.
The African American Scene with Rudy Howard is presented each week by Howard Insurance, heard every Wednesday night in the 6 p.m. hour, and archives, video archives of this show and all the nasty things you've said on it, folks, is on YouTube for everybody to watch. Go to WPSLTV.com. And then we might accept your apologies afterwards. Join us again next week, though. Rudy really does love your company here. This is WPSL, Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast. Tomorrow night, IRSC basketball. Friday night, high school football. Saturday afternoon, more IRSC basketball, all right here on Digital 1590. The time at the sound of the tone will be CBS News Time, 7 o'clock.